like what are the topics that we covered? Okay, no questions. Okay. Uh, okay, let me mute you all. Okay, try to practice. Like, see, I'm keep on like asking you guys to practice. Like, without practice, I don't think so. It will be easy to learn Selenium. Okay, so it's like very tough. In case if you practice it, like it would be very easy. And that too, once the class is done, it's better to practice at the same time, so you'll not lose the track. Okay, so better practice it and let me know in case if you guys have any questions. Okay. Okay, so let's continue with the TestNG. Okay, so in the previous class, like we saw how to like group the test cases in the with the help of the TestNG, and also executing the test cases as a test suite with the help of the XML file that we created. Okay, so we can like group and we can execute the test cases like that. And like today, like we are going to see something called as priority. Okay, so let's say like if you have multiple tests in one of the like whatever the class or the script that you create, let's say if you have multiple tests in it, okay, and in that test like you want to prioritize like how the test cases should be executed. So by default how it executes is based on the alphabetical order, like we saw it yesterday, like in the last class when we were executing. So it was first executing the tests that were starting in that are in the alphabetical order. Okay, first it was executing the Audi, then BMW, then Honda, so like that. So the test will be executed in that way based on the name of the test and in the alphabetical order. So now let's say like you have some specific priority that you want to set for the test. Okay, so let's say you are not using any of the what you call like the tags or grouping or grouping the test cases. You are not using any grouping or test suite. Okay, so in that case, like what we can do is we can use something called as priority. So for each and every test that we have in the class, we can set some priority to it, and based on the priority it's going to execute that test. Okay, so for example, let's say like we have some script. Okay, see, let me open a notepad. So let's say like we are creating one test, and in that test like we want to log into the application. This is one test, and you want to verify something in there, like opening the application, doing some task in there, like entering the username, password, and submitting the on that page. And then let's say like you have one more in that test, like in you have one more test that you want to create is, let's say you want to purchase a ticket. Okay, and then finally you want to log off of the application. So let's say in one test like we are doing these three, or in one class, okay, we are doing these three scenarios or these three tests. First is the login test, then purchase a ticket test, and then the logout test. Okay, so let's just create one sample test and we'll see how it works. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll come here, I'll create one new file or other class like TestNG class. Okay, and here I'll provide like what the name of the test that I want to give. Let's say priority. Okay, priority something practice. And in this, let's say I want before class and after class. Okay, so then yeah, only those are the two things that I want, and I want to have it in this TestNG examples. Okay, so it's creating at some other location, so I'll move it to our folder. Okay, and like whatever that got deleted, I'm just closing it so that, see, I have my priority practice.java file, and like see, you have after class, before class, and the test. So let's say, see, I'll have this. So before class, after class, and the first test is, let's say, login. Okay, I'll copy the same thing and I'll have one more test. Let's say the test is to purchase ticket. Okay, I want to purchase a ticket, and finally I want to log off, something like this, like log off. Okay, so we have 3 different tests. Okay, so what we need to do, first of all, like when you purchase a ticket, like let's say if you execute this one, so what will happen, might happen is, let's say instead I'll say something like this, like a purchase ticket. Okay, and let's say something like B log off. Okay, so in this case what will happen, see, let's say when I execute it, let me keep a small message so that we can see inside login method or test, then I'll have one more, see system.out.println inside purchase ticket test, then finally I have system.out.println like inside log off test. Okay, so I have, see, just like basic thing, and then I'll give a system.out.println. So instead of writing all the code into it, I'm just like trying to just print a message in there. Otherwise we can launch the browser, then have the code to log into the application, then purchasing a ticket and logging off the application. Okay, so you guys can do this as a homework or a practice, okay, and try to use our demo AUT website and try to create this. Okay, so in the login code, like in the before class and after class, like before class, like you can have the code to create the WebDriver and launch the browser and navigate to that specific demoaut.com. And in the login, you can have, like, you can click on that login button, then enter the details. And in the purchase ticket, okay, you can purchase a ticket. Then in the log off, you can click on the log off button. Okay, so you can try that code, having that code into these methods. Okay, so now see, then inside before class, and finally I'll have one for inside after class. Okay, see, if I execute this, right click, run as TestNG test, see, it executed it. Let's go back and see what it says. First it came to the before class, okay, then it came to purchase ticket, then it came to log off, then it came to login, and finally after class. So in this situation, like what's happening, in case if you really create your test and do this, so before even logging into the application, what it does is it's going to try to purchase the ticket. So without login, like you cannot purchase a ticket. Okay, so what will happen, see, like it will launch the browser, come here. Okay, so from this page itself, it is trying, instead of logging into the application, what it will do, it will try to look for the object to purchase the ticket, which will not be there. So what will happen, the test will fail. Okay, that test will fail and it will go and continue the next one, like it tries to execute the next one. So before even logging, purchasing login is done, so it will go and try to log off, because that object will not be present, so it will fail. Then it will log in. Okay, so this should not be the case. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to prioritize them. So we know that we need to first execute the login, then we need to execute purchase, and then we need to execute the log off. So for that reason, like what we can do is, in the test itself, like you can provide some priority to it. Okay, so we can provide some priority to our test, and based on the priority, it is going to execute the test. Like when you run the test, like it is going to execute based on the priority. Okay, so how to specify that priority is, see, after the test, just give priority equal to 0. Okay, so priority equal to 0, that means if it is 0, that means this is the highest priority, so that will be executed first. Okay, and then see, priority equal to 1, then finally see, priority equal to 2, like this, 0, 1, 2. So now it knows that, okay, first it needs to execute this, then it needs to execute this, and then it needs to execute this one. Okay, see, let's save it and now run it. Okay, see, now it executed login, then purchasing the ticket and logging off. Even though the purchase ticket is a purchase, which is the first in the alphabetical order, okay, but still it didn't execute that a purchase. Instead, it executed the login, then purchase, then log off. Okay, so this is how, like, you can set the priority of how your test needs to be executed with the help of this like priority. So all we need to do is just add this priority keyword or annotation to your, or keyword to the annotation. So then based on that, it is going to execute those tests. Okay, so it's just simple and straightforward. So we can give, based on our flow that we have in our test, we can set these priorities. Okay, so this is what we can do with the help of the priority. Okay, see, let me save this. So that's what the priority is. Okay, then like in the same way, like we also have something called as depends. For example, see, let's say you have some tests. Okay, see, in the same scenario, like you have login, like you have a purchase ticket and you have log off. So in case if you don't provide a priority, it will execute based on the alphabetical order. Okay, but let's say to execute this test, the mandatory thing is login should be executed. Okay, so one way to handle that is with the help of priority. Okay, not only that, there are something else called as depends on, okay, or the method dependent. Okay, so with that, what we can do is we can specify on this purchase ticket that whenever it is trying to execute this purchase ticket, like it should make sure that it executes the login. Okay, so that is called dependent. So that means this test is dependent on this one. If this is like if this is executed, then only it should execute this purchase ticket. Okay, so how to do that is, see, let me create a new test, or probably I can just take this priority test itself, copy and paste it here. Okay, and I'll change it to, let's say, instead of priority, I'll say depends. Okay, test depends on. Okay, I'm giving the name of the test, click OK. Okay, see, it created that test depends on Java, and see, we have the same thing. So I'll just remove this priority from here. I'll remove this priority from here. Okay, so same simple basic thing like login, purchase ticket and log off. So if you execute it, first it will execute the purchase ticket, then log off, then login, because it is A, B and L. Okay, so now we want to have a dependency. That means like we want to have a dependency on this purchase ticket, that it should be dependent on login. So if the login is executed, then only it should execute the purchase ticket. Okay, so for that, all we need to do is same thing, how we provided the priority, in the same way to this method, like we have to provide something called as, see, open the brackets to that specific test and then say depends. See, depends on, focus on methods equal to this, open a curly bracket, close the curly bracket, and inside that you need to provide what is the method that it is dependent on, so which is login, like this. Okay, and so it gives me an error, says, see, change to depends on method. So looks like this some spelling is mistake, DEPENS, but I can just say change to depends on methods, see, like this. Okay, in the same way, see, this log off is dependent on purchase ticket. Okay, if this is executed, then only I want to execute the log off, otherwise I don't want to do it. Okay, see, I can say same thing, copy it on, or like I can just type it again, can say this depends on methods equal to, open and close the curly bracket and quotes, give the name of the purchase ticket, like this. Okay, so this one is dependent on this and this one is dependent on this. Okay, so when it is trying to execute, and if it sees this, then it will try to go and check whether the login has been executed or not. If it is executed, then only it will execute this. If it is not, it will first execute the login, then it will execute the purchase ticket. Okay, see, let's run it and see. Run as TestNG test. Okay. See, it has been executed, and if you see here, see, login, purchase, log off. Even if you go to the TestNG results, see, login, purchase and log off. Okay, so this is how like the dependency can be specified in our tests, in case if you have your test dependent on some other tests. This is what the depends on methods. So again, like in our script, some people might use depends on the methods based on the situation. Like based on situation, you have to decide. Okay, in case if you know the priority, how it needs to execute, then we can say priority. We can use a priority keyword. In case if you don't know the priority and only some of the methods are dependent on other methods, okay, and other things can execute in whatever the way that they want to. Let's say you have 10 tests and all the, let's say in that 8 tests can be executed without any dependency on the other one. So all are independent of every other tests. Then we don't need to specify anything. We can just like create the test and we can execute them. Okay. So in whatever the way they are. But let's say in those 10, let's say there are 2 tests which are dependent on other tests. So we cannot set a priority. We can also set a priority, but then we can use this depends on method. And you can specify which method that you want to define your test to be dependent on, then we can provide that. Okay, so based on our requirement, like we have to decide which one is better and how we can handle that situation, and we need to use them in our tests. Okay, so this is what the depends on is. Okay, and one more thing that we need to know from the TestNG is, see, when we are doing this, like what it is doing is it's printing the log to the console. See, it's been printing the log to the console. See, inside login test, before class, after class. Okay, but and not only that, see, it also has, see, everything like all the results, like how many are run, how many are failed, how many passed, and also we have the TestNG results, which gives the method names. In case if there are only failures, then it will give you the failure exception. If there is no failure, then it will just continue the, or it will just say pass for that specific method. Okay, and not only this console and the TestNG results, like what the TestNG also does is, for every execution it creates one results file, or it creates a test file. Okay, see, let me just refresh this. Okay, so I'll refresh, and if you see here, see, there is something called as test output. Okay, so when you execute your test, like this folder will be created, and for every, in case if there is no folder, it will create a new folder in there. In case if there is already a folder, it will just overwrite with the new result. Okay, and see, if you go inside, like you have all the, like there are some different files, and see there is something called as index.html. Okay, so what it does is, TestNG by default, when you execute the code, like it creates a like HTML file or a results file, and see, this is where the location is, and when you double click on this, see, it will open that results file. Okay, so this is what the results file is. Like, see, there is one suite that we executed, and there are 3 methods and 3 of them got passed. Okay, see, pass methods, if you click on this show, see, purchase ticket is one method, log off is one method, and the login is one more method. So these are the 3 methods that have been executed. Okay, and not only so, by default this is what it is going to do. In case if there is any failure, it also displays that failure also, but as now we don't have any failure, it passed all the 3. Okay, all the tests have been passed. Okay, so let's now, by default this is going to do it, the TestNG is going to do it. And not only that, in case if you want to send some messages, like if you want to send some result or something to the results file, we can also do that. Okay, and how to do that is, see, so instead of this one, like what I'll do is, see, instead of let's say this, so what I'll do is, there is something keyword that we need to use, or the method called reporter dot log. Okay, see, if you see here, it says reporter dot log, and you need to pass two values. One is string, okay, and whatever the string that you want to display. So let's say I'll say inside login test. Okay, and then we have something called as log to standard out. We have to say true, like this. Okay, so inside login test, and we have to say true. Okay, so now if I run this, see, right click, run as TestNG test. Okay, it has executed it, and all it has given you all the log, because we also have the system.out.println, so it printed it here. Okay, so now let's refresh this folder. Okay, so test output, now it got updated because we executed it. So every time when you want to get the new data, we need to refresh it. So right click on that folder and say refresh, and now go to this index.html. see, double click on this, it creates a file, it opens the file, and if you see these methods, like what are the different methods that it executed, and there is something called as, see, reporter out. So what are the message that we just sent with the help of the reporter.out, that will come and store here. See, if I click on this reporter.out, see, inside login test. Okay, like this also we can send the log to our results. So all the whatever the log that we want to generate, that log can be sent to this results file, and this will be stored at some location in the form of this HTML. Okay, see, let me close this like this. So instead of, if like, see, with the system.out.println, it only writes it to the console, but once you close and reopen, that result will be gone. Okay, so in order for us to store all the results at some location and reuse it later, we need to use this reporter.log, which will report it to the TestNG results file, which we can get it from here. Okay, so generally we use this reporter itself, reporter.log itself, and we'll write all the results to the results file. Okay, and not only this reporter, like let's say you have something, let's say, see, in your login test you have some logic, let's say string, maybe let's say expected value equal to, let's say, selenium. Okay, string expected value equal to selenium. Okay, then let's say in the same way you have one more variable, let's say actual value equal to something like selenium 123. Okay, think about it, right? This is our expected value, and let's say this actual value, it's coming from application. Okay, so how it is, let's say you have your login, let's say you're logging into the Gmail, so you'll enter your username, password. Once you click on the sign in button, like what it's going to do, it will open, like it will log in into your application in case if your username and password is correct, and then let's say it's giving you a message, welcome, let's say Selenium, like whatever the username that you are providing in the at the time of login, it will say that, okay, welcome Selenium. Okay, and you might need to test that. You need to test that whatever the value that you entered at the time of login is same as the message that is displayed after login, like welcome Selenium or welcome something. Okay, so in those cases what we need to do, we have your expected as your username, and actual is the one that you got it from the application. Okay, so in those cases what we need to do, let's say you want to compare, your test case says that the value that is entered should be present on that home page as a welcome, whatever the username that you provided. So you have to compare those two things and you need to say whether it is pass or fail. So how we can do that is with the help of a if loop. Okay, so something like if else statement. Okay, if actual value or expected value dot equals ignore case actual value, which we already know it. Okay, so if it is these two, then I'll say something like system.out.println pass or something like that. Okay, so I'll say pass, else system.out.println, okay, fail. Okay, but so in this, like what we are doing is we are using our Java code and we are verifying two different values. Okay, so with this, like it is, we are only saying that system.out.println. So it will just go, if it is pass or fail, it will go and write it to the console, but the test will not be failed. Okay, see, let's say now it is expected is this. Let's say our actual value is selenium 123, so it should go into the fail and it needs to fail our test also. See, let's run it and see. So the script has been executed but it got passed. See, all the three methods got passed. Okay, and even if you see here, everything is passed. But what is that we are doing, like our validation is wrong. Okay, or if you go into the system the console, see here we wrote it manually that it is failed. Okay, with the help of the system.out.println. So the message is displayed as fail, but the test case did not get failed, or the TestNG test did not get failed, because we are using the Java code. So TestNG does not know what we are doing it blindly uses, takes the Java code, and whatever that we are doing, it will either go display or do some validations, or it's going to do whatever that it has supposed to do. But from the Java code, we are not telling to TestNG that okay, this step got failed, can you please test your test also. Okay, we cannot tell that. So in those situations, like what we can do is, instead of using this Java code, like we need to use something else. Okay, so what we need to do is, see, there is something called as assert dot, let's say assert equals, then I can say assert equals, see, two values. Okay, assert that two booleans are equal. If they are not, an assertion error is thrown. Okay, so I can use that. Okay, or see, assert equals int. So in case, like if it is a string, we need to go with the string. Okay, if it is a int, let's say if you are comparing two integer values, we need to use this int. Okay, assert equals int actual, int expected. Okay, see, in the same way we can use whatever that we want. So for every different type of object, we need to use a different assert method. So for now, as it is a string, like I'll try to use, see, assert equals probably boolean. Okay, so if we say boolean, like we are not passing the boolean, but instead like we are passing a string value. So let's try in case if it works or not. Okay, or I can say probably, yeah, let's try this. See, expected value is this and actual value is this. Okay, save it. Okay, see, assert equals expected value and actual value. So now we are trying to compare those two values, selenium and selenium 123. See, now if you run this, see, the test got failed now. Okay, see, login got failed, and why it failed is, see, expected is selenium but was selenium 123. So this is what I am expecting it. Okay, and this is what the actual value is. Now it failed, and even if you see this TestNG test, see, it got failed because, see, if you see here, JUnit framework comparison failure. Expected is Selenium, but was Selenium 123. Okay, so this is how like we need to use the assert. Instead of using the plain old Java code, like we need to use this assert, which will tell the TestNG whether it should pass or fail that specific test. Okay, and see, even if I refresh our test folder to just see the new file, see, one test, we executed one suite and one failed test. And why it failed and where it failed, see, login got failed, and this is our error. What are the error that it had? Okay, and even if you go to our reporter, you'll have that what are the reporter code is. Okay, so this is how like you can send the result or pass or fail a test case based on it, the condition that you provide, and we have to use this assert method there. Okay, we need to use this assert method, then only the TestNG will either pass or will fail the specific test. Okay, so let's save this. And any questions, or is it clear? Okay, so this TestNG reports is like very important, because this is like one of the benefit of using the TestNG. So this Excel like HTML file is not like there is no option to generate this HTML file with the help of the JUnit. Okay, this is only can be done with the help of TestNG, like one of the feature that TestNG provides us. And the grouping, like priority, all these things are part of TestNG itself, which are not available as part of JUnit. Okay, so that's why I only covered the annotations in the JUnit. So because most of them will use the TestNG itself because of all the features that we have in the TestNG. Okay, so let's close this. Okay, and our next topic is, see, TestNG priority we are done, like the code for it. Then we have done the like dependency. Then like we have the reporters, see reporter.log, then asserts. Okay, and now like we have the something called as parameters. Okay, so let's see what these parameters are. Okay, so basically like even in the TestNG we can parameterize a test. Parameterize a test in the sense the code is one, but the logic or the functionality that you are doing it in the test is different. Okay, so something like let me create it and I'll show you. See, right click and I'll say new other. Okay, TestNG class. Okay, either you can go from here, or also see you have one more option, right click and see TestNG, create TestNG class. Okay, we can also use this also. So click on this, then like let's give some name to it as parameters. Okay, and I'll have just like simple before class, after class, and one @test method. Okay, so then TestNG this. So you have our method, then before class and after class. Okay, so now like what we need to do is, see, let's say we have a method here, let's say something display name. Okay, so we have a method called display name, and to that I have a input called, let's say, string name is, let's say, something user name. Okay, so I have a method called display name and simple like string username. Okay, so now in this method, like what I'm trying to do is reporter dot log. Okay, reporter dot log, and in that I want to say username is, okay, and plus this username variable. Okay, so username is this username variable and true, like this. Okay, so let's save this. So okay, so now this. So what we are trying to do here is like we are trying to pass this as a variable, okay, or as a parameter. So whatever that you comes to this method, like we want to use that and display it, okay. Or instead of this, let's say you also have, let's say you want to add two different numbers, and every time you want to pass the numbers from some location, so you can also do that. Okay, so now see true. Let's say, let's see this example first, like this. Okay, so reporter.log username is plus username true. Okay, and then now, okay, so then like we need to pass that value. Okay, we need to pass that value. 1 second. So yeah, so what we need to do is like we need to pass this value. So this value we can pass it from our XML file. Okay, so like whatever the XML file that we create, from there we can pass those values. So I'll try to create a new XML file here. See, right click, new file. Okay, for execution, like we saw it how to create the XML file, and I'll name it as parameters.xml. Okay, parameters.xml. So from this, like I want to execute it. So from this I want to execute the test and also want to pass the parameters. So first is suite. Okay, suite, suite name equal to, let's say I want to give it as parameters. Okay, in suite, and then here we need to provide the parameter. So whatever the parameter that we have, see name equal to, let's say what we gave username. See the username. Okay, and I can say name is this and value is, let's say, selenium. Okay, and I can close it. Sorry, outside, like this. Okay, parameter username equal to, like name is username, value is selenium. I am ending the parameter. Okay, and then the other tags that we have, see test name equal to what, like what are the name that we want to give. Let's say parameters track something sample. Okay, and close it, close the test. Okay, and then we have classes. So after test, like we need to give the classes tag. Okay, and then we have class tag, like class name equal to, we need to provide the path to it. See com.test.testng examples. Okay, dot parameters. Okay, com.test.testng dot parameters and close it. Sorry, like this. So the class has been closed. So I want to execute all the methods that are there in that class. Okay, so I'll not specify any methods, specific methods that I want to run it. Okay, so all we are doing updating here is like whatever that we learned in the previous class plus this parameters tag. Okay, so now I'll save this. So now we created an XML file. Okay, so we created that XML file, but we need to pass that values or the parameters to our test. Okay, so there can be multiple tests, so we don't know or it doesn't know to which test it needs to pass. So to specify that, what we need to do is, see here, before test we have to add one more tag at the rate, and we have to say parameters. Okay, see it's throwing me an error. So if you right click, on. Okay, or instead, like we can also type it, we can say, or let's do it first. See, parameters of, okay, open the curl bracket, close the curl bracket, and give the name of this variable like this. Okay, and before this we need to add something. See, it says parameter is not a annotation type, so why is it not highlighting it? Okay, so what we need to do is, it's not able to understand what that parameter is. See, you have to say org.testng annotations dot parameters. Okay, like this. So save it now. See, org.testng.annotations.parameter. So whatever the, so now like what we need to do is, we, in case if you want to change the parameter value, we don't need to make any changes in the Java file. All we need to do is go to the parameters.xml and change the value here. Okay, see, now let's run this and see. So to execute this, right click, run as TestNG suite. Okay, I think it is giving me error. Let's see what it is. Okay, I think the same error that we got. So looks like something is wrong here. com.test.testng.parameters only. The path that we provided to it is giving error there. Correct, only test.testng examples. Okay, or we can copy it from the previous test. Okay. This looks right. ETERS dot, okay, parameters. Okay, so now let me run this and see. Yeah, see, it executed now, and it says, see, username is Selenium. Okay, and the suite got executed. So let me go and refresh the test output, and if you see here, see, index.html, and if you see the reported output, see, username is Selenium. Okay, now let's say next time you want to change it. Okay, let's say you are like first time, for example, you are logging into the Gmail with Selenium and some password, and next time you want to test the same code, like whatever the code that you have, you want to test that with a different username. Like you want to log in with a different user details, credentials, and you want to test your application. So that is what exactly is called as parameterization. Okay, the script is same, the script is one, but the data that you are passing to your script is different every time. So that is what is called as parameterization, and that can be achieved with the help of this parameters tag, okay, in JUnit, or sorry, the TestNG. So next time if I want to change it, see, I'll say, instead of Selenium, let's say I'll say cucumber. Okay, so I don't need to change anything in the .java file. I need to just change in the XML file itself. Okay, see, now if I go and run it, parameter.xml, right click, run as TestNG suite. Okay, see, it executed, and if you see here, it's cucumber, and if you go to the console, like it's cucumber, and then if you go to the TestNG reports, see, just refresh this one. You can refresh it from here also. See, and if you see the output, see, username is cucumber. Okay, so this is how we can parameterize with the help of the parameters tag in the TestNG. So now we did only one. So like that, like we can add any number of parameters, and it can be integers, it can be whatever the value that you want. Okay, so we can create one test with the integers, and we can pass integer values also. So all we need to do is, see, just add new parameter. Let's say I can say something zip code. Okay, I can give 1 2 3 4 5, something like this, or 1 2 3. Okay, in the quotes like this. Okay, or probably I can say value 1 is 10, then value 2, just like two different variables, is let's say 20. Okay, and I can create one more method in there. See, I can copy this. Okay, so I'll say add numbers, like the method name that I'm giving it is add numbers, and instead of username, see, I'll give value 1. Okay, so let me make everything uppercase, this one also uppercase, so value 1, okay, comma value 2, like this. And instead of string, I have to say int uh, val1 comma int val2. Okay, so reporter dot rip log something like, let's say in here I can say int val3 equal to val1 plus val2. Okay, sorry, uppercase val1 and uppercase val2, and I can say this. Okay, and I can say val3, something like added value is val3, like this. Okay, so this is a generic method that we created and we are passing the parameters to it. Okay, see, let's run this and see. Okay, see, added value is 30, and that will be also updated in your TestNG suite. See, add numbers 10 comma 20, like what are the parameters that you are passing to it. Okay, and if you go to the TestNG reports, you'll see the same thing. Okay, see, added value is 30. Okay, next time if you want to change something, see, all we need to do is 30 30, save it, run it. So you don't need to change anything in your code, just change the XML file and everything will work. See, added value is 60, and if you come to our result TestNG reports, see, refresh, reporter out, see, added value is 60. Simple, like this is how we can do the parameters in the TestNG. Okay, so parameterization, like automation, means one of the benefits of doing automation is the parameterization. Okay, so for sure, like if you are doing some testing manually, and let's say for one set of data, let's say you are testing 100 test cases. Okay, and for one set of data to execute those 100 test cases, like let's say you need 5 days of time. Okay, and okay, so you need 100 test cases, 5 days of time, 2 resources. Okay, so again, let's say you want to execute with a different set of data, so you again need 5 days and 2 resources for first set, 5 days of 2 resources for the second test set also. Okay, because the data is different, so whatever the steps that you are doing at the first time, you have to again do all the steps again second time also. Okay, but with the automations, once you create the script, see, we created our code once. Okay, for the execution, all we are doing is just updating these parameter values and just clicking on the run button. Okay, so that's what the parameterization is, and one of the benefits of automation is the parameterization. See, this is how we can do the parameterization. Okay, so I took the example of simple, like adding two values, but you guys can try like logging into some application, passing the username and password as a parameters, and specify that username password in this XML file. Okay, so try that and practice it. Okay, any questions so far, or is it clear? Okay, I'm unmuting you all. Okay, any questions or is it clear?